Hey, welcome to the session. I am so excited today because we are going to talk about a man by the name of David. Now, this man right here, don't tell all the other people, but I think he is my absolute favorite in the Bible. Number one, he has a way with words that nobody else has. You know, David will say things. Read the Psalms, you'll see what I'm talking about. David comes out with stuff like, as the deer panteth for the water brook, so panteth my soul after thee, O God. And when David says it, you are like, yeah, man, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Because it's just like David just has a way of yielding his heart and his speech to God. I just love him. And you know what? The thing about him is you could talk about him 24/7 and still not really get the fullness of the role that he played in ancient times. He is a mighty man of God. I love him. I love the psalmist in him, I guess, because I'm a writer and I love to write. I love music and all of those things. So part of me identifies with that. I identify with the worshiper that's within him. Part of me identifies with the leader that's within him. But I also identify with the young boy that was out in the shepherd's field. He was a young man that was keeping his father's sheep. That was David's assignment. That was his job. He was the youngest of the litter in his house. He was the youngest of all the sons. And so his father put him out in the field to tend to the sheep. And he's out there doing what his daddy had assigned him to do. And in the middle of all of that, I think it was in those settings and maybe even in some of the night seasons of his life out there that he began to develop his relationship with God. He and God became tighter than tight. David would sing and God would clap. They just had that awesome relationship. David really had to have God because he suffered so much rejection by his family, by his father, by his brothers. He was, like I said, the runt of the litter. He really didn't fit in with everybody else. He didn't look the part. He didn't dress the part. He didn't act the part. He didn't really smell the part because he's out there with these stinking sheep. But the good thing about it is he was faithful to his assignment. When you are faithful to your assignment, I mean to tell you today that God takes note of that, even when people fail to take note of that. He was out there doing what his daddy had assigned him or what his pastor had assigned him to do. And while he was out there doing that, and in the middle of that, building that relationship with God, God was so blessed by this little boy named David. And at the same time, God is watching the king, Saul, make one mistake after another. Finally, God says, that's it. I am stripping the kingship from you, Saul, and I'm giving it to David, a lad who was out in the field, being faithful to his assignment, worshiping, singing to me, writing me poetry, blowing me kisses. And I have decided I will make him the next king. So God sends his prophet down to Jesse, who is David's father, by the way. Send him down to Jesse's house. He walks in and he said, I'm here to anoint one of your sons to make them king. And so what does his dad do? He lines up all the boys, the ones that look the part, act the part, smell the part, all of those things. He lines them all up. And so the prophet goes to anoint one of them. Guess what happens? The oil doesn't come out of the horn. You know why? Because that oil knew it belonged to David. Let me tell you something. What God has for you, it is for you. Nobody can get it. Not even your brother. Not even the ones that look like they deserve the part. Listen, that oil stayed sucked up in that horn until finally the prophet said, okay, the oil is not flowing. You've got to know when the oil is not flowing, you've got to know that, look, we need to do something different. The prophet knew. He said, this is not working. Do you have another son anywhere? Finally, his dad says, well, I do have another young lad out in the field. They went and got him. They brought him back. And I'm going to tell you something, that oil began to flow, and it set him in a process like nothing else. God began to use that boy's life from that day forward.